Good evening, kindred. It is I, Voivode Maquette, for Our World of Darkness. And tonight we continue our reading of Chicago by Night. Chapter 2, Welcome to the Night. That's right. Drink it up. Good boy. Little Lamb pulled Carson from her breast and placed the man's head in her lap. She stroked the oil magnate's curly hair as he dozed off like a baby filled with warm milk. Looking down at the blood slave, Lamb cooed a little before talking further. "Did you know we embraced Jesus?" Carson snuffled in response, not really listening. "It's true. At least it's true according to a book I was shown. We embraced Jesus. Peter was his ghoul. And that's how we got in on the church building so early on. Oh, and we helped create Islam. One of our eldest elders was a confidant of Muhammad. Salahullah. Alaihi Wasalam. It's true, I promise." The blood doll snored gently while Lamb rolled her eyes. "So you think it sounds like a load of horseshit, huh? Well," she looked around the empty church, "I can see why. I mean, it would go a long way of explaining the resurrection and how interested the magisters have always been in the church, but it's a big claim to swallow." Little Lamb lifted Max's head slightly, moving off the pew and placing a cushion in her place so as not to wake the addict laying there. "So most La Sombra go around having heard this little piece of myth, and they chalk it up as crap. But I'm going to tell you something I've never even told my sire. I attended this church the other night. I stayed in for Mass, I droned the words and said the prayers, and when I looked up at Jesus and Mary, with Jesus' face half in shadow, I saw the dark half smiling. He was on the cross, and he was fucking smiling out of the abyss at me." Little Lamb started laughing before genuflecting and shaking her head at Jesus. "If you're one of us, Mr. Christ, how about you call the Inquisition off for a while?" The deal. Malenkov. "I know it grates the balls of one such as yourself to consider bending to the cam, but it's time to face facts. We need to take it like a trooper, just this once, so prepare for a permanent filleting. I know which option I favor. There's word the Amici Noctis reached out to trusted keepers with reputation for clans over sect loyalties, and the Friends arranged diplomatic missions by these same keepers to the Anarchs and the Camarilla. At first, these representatives are to make solitary offerings of fealty to the Ivory Tower before petitioning for the entry of the entire clan. I know what you're thinking, and I thought the same. The act is going to be far from easy. But get this, some domains are accepting La Sombra refugees in exchange for the sacrifice of La Sombra, Camarilla princes deem unsuitable. So understand, we sacrifice our pawns to stand alongside the Camarilla's kings and queens. In this case, our pawns refer to any Sabbat unprepared or unable to abandon monstrosity or maintain the masquerade. The Camarilla want those anxious to defect, not those who might cause trouble. I suspect at least half the La Sombra will remain in the Sabbat, but will lack central authority or direction if the Amici Noctis is going full Ivory Tower. Those of us who held city titles of Archbishop and the Sabbat now attempts to do so in the Camarilla, bringing with us our manipulation of the Catholic Church. Any La Sombra ranked cardinal are put to the torch as a gesture of good faith. Ironic, I suppose. Few kindred will trust us, for our betrayal of the Sabbat highlights fickle loyalties. Or so the degenerates say. The Camarilla will, however, value our clan's power, ruthlessness, and sphere of mortal influence. The Ventru despise having to contest praxis with ancient enemies, just as the Toreador loathe sharing roles in Elysium with the latecomers. Despite this, and due to the close eyes all clans keep on us in their domains, it seems the Lasombra may yet make tenuous allies of the Camarilla. I'm not done. And neither are the Camarilla be. They'll push and push to see what they can get out of us. And they're already doing so in a few domains I've heard of. The weak cities, the ones who lost half the kindred population to the anarchs, they're the ones saying, we just need to deliver staked bodies of Sabbat troublemakers, Lasombra or not. The conservative domains, the ones we want to get in on, they've been known to ask for the following. For every Lasombra joining the Camarilla, an elder Lasombra must be presented as sacrifice. Lasombra intending on joining the Camarilla must submit to a blood bond. A maximum of 3 Lasombra may exist in any one Camarilla domain. Camarilla are to receive no warnings regarding the traditions or just punishments. The practice of our particular brand of blood arts is forbidden on pain of final death. No Lasombra may hold titles in the Camarilla domains for at least 50 years. I could go on. The Camarilla love this new power they have over us. I say let them. The only deal of the above that troubles me is the talk of murdering elders to appease our new allies. Are the Amici Noctis really going to go for that? How long before we come for them in that case? Interesting nights, Mal. I hope we both survive to see the end of this turbulent period. Though don't be surprised if someone labels you as a troublemaker for being such an infamous war criminal in the Sabbat Camarilla War. Or an elder ripe for sacrifice. After all, don't you have children and younger siblings? T. Fisk. Back to Lamb. The Lasombra in Society. Good evening again, my perfect flock. Let me tell you, in the domains where magisters join with the Camarilla, the reluctant clans already holding membership at least have consolation they hold all the mortal influence cards. They reasonably, we Lasombra will be playing catch-up for some time. Those vampires are wrong. Before the Sabbat's formation, we magisters concentrated our influence on mortal religious institutions, while our Ventru and Toreador counterparts did so on mortal nobility. These manipulating tendrils never went away, they just hit a little better. Few Lasombra embraced in the last century are even aware of our clan's power within the church, but this knowledge now spreads thick and fast, especially with the myriad Protestant faiths on the rise in the United States and the Catholic Church dominant in South America. While we Lasombra might struggle to influence doctrine, the nomination of a pope, or a faith-support of a war, those issues being high profile and containing too many variables, members of our clan in Rome have easier access to the Vatican records than others. A vampire like myself, who preys on church workers, charity workers, and missionaries, can influence the church's effectiveness and priests at the regional level. And a mercenary killer like Tally. You know him, yes? Benefits from the intelligence of where the Second Inquisition focuses its gaze. As a whole, Clan Lasombra is a clan of hypocrisy and pragmatism. Oh, it's not a great fault to call us hypocrites. A certain amount of honesty is required in a chapel such as this. Most keepers only use church for its power, rather than spiritual sense. The Amisinactes decrees that it must be this way anyway, though you may give the finger to those dusty turds. Hiding among congregation conveys multiple benefits, from sleeping beneath churches to using priests as puppets and flocks as herds. Have you heard of the Lasombra in France and Spain who sees the catacombs of the national cathedrals in that domain? You really piss off the Nosferatu. Something in our blood makes an individual magister hunger for self-aggrandizement. First of individual vampire, secondly of the clan, and to prove ourselves better than everyone else. Of course, this act that means to power, whether spiritual or material or governmental. We're not dissimilar to the stereotypical Venture in this regard, except where the Venture desire to rule, we desire to triumph. Power is a symptom, not necessarily a goal. Though religion is the predominant sector in which we court influence, our clanmates seize the opportunity to dominate kind at the state level, as in the way prodigal Lasombra Moon-C Young manipulates the affairs of Busan through control of the city media. She does this not to lead the city, but to show she's better than the other moguls in the city. The challenge becomes one of discretion. Now that many within our clan nominally hold allegiance to the Camarilla, we can't easily claim a senator as a puppet or whisper into the ear of a monarch. In these early nights of union between the Camarilla and Lasombra, we magisters must exercise restraints or draw the collective ire of our new sectmates. In the case of vampires like Moon-C Young, she works entirely through mortal agents and shares none of her true influence with fellow Canites. She's satisfied, for now, domineering over the kine. She's a good girl. With the recent division within Clan Tremere, many kindred suspect we'll be fast to occupy the Warlock's chair. In several domains, this has already become the case, with magisters acting as advisors, personal bodyguards, regents, and chamberlains to Venture princes. This places Venture tyrants such as Agneth of Christiania and Camilla of Rome immensely, I'm told, as they can now lord over another clan, one they have despised for centuries. The vampires this vexes more than any other are those of Clan Toreador, who have long felt underestimated within the sect that they help form, as they see ancient enemies grabbing at posts that should be rightfully theirs. Degenerates such as Edward William of Denver and Annabelle of Chicago take every action to hamstring our activities. Trust me, my little flock, this is all for the good. We want the gaps of the Camarilla a little wider so we can fit in more easily. Email from the Hound at sunburst.co.uk to XX 3 pound XX sunburst.us. Subject: grabbing a bite to eat. Hello. I dislike communicating this way, old boy. So I'll keep it brief. If you need me otherwise, you can do what everyone else does and find me personally. There aren't many safe places to eat in Chicago, sadly. For the Camarilla's U.S. capital, it certainly leaves a lot to be desired. There's no privacy, if you get my meaning. A lot of press looking for tourists like us. Still, it is easier to find solitary dining partners these nights than when we used to go out in groups. In most cities, I recommend you to find a date and really let him or her know you wanted to spend some time out at a quiet, dark dining establishment. Look into their lovely eyes, implore sweet nothings, and sample the tasting menu. In Chicago, you need to be smarter about who you pick up, how you convince them to dine with you, and, importantly, where you eat. No just grabbing an attractive mate in a bar. No just locking eyes and saying, "I want you." Maybe in LA or Indianapolis, but certainly not Chicago. So, how do you do it? And where do you go? If you want to avoid Jackson's attention and that of the press, you have to rely on natural charm, old boy. Just good old-fashioned words. You have to find out about your partner, what they like, and enchant them with your good manners. I know, you're thinking, but I could do X and make it easier. Well, shut that thought up and file it under bad idea. Consider it akin to drugging someone's drink and how well that would go down with the establishment. And where to dine? I recommend, once you've charmed your partner, you go back to a nice motel on the outskirts. Sometimes they have a buffet or allow deliveries to your room. But the point is, popular spots are bad spots. These places get packed with people we don't like unless you book very well in advance. So, have you got that? Charm, isolation, no experience you'll wish to recount on holidayadvisor.com. I know it doesn't sound like what you're expecting from our family, but give it time. Things will improve for us. For now, old boy, you play quiet scum. Just like the dancer at the stockbroker's down at the hall. Do not reply. Tally's tale. Allow me to tell you a little tale about my life as Sabbat Knight, Templar, and Bishop, and how these roles translate into kindred society tonight. In my lengthy time as servant of the Sabbat, I slew the sex enemies, protected the existence of over-old keepers and fiends, drank the vitae of my brothers to enforce loyalty, and gave less than two shits about the lives of the kind. I was prized for my skill with the abyss, my blade, and the gun. The Friends of the Night awarded me with the rights to diablerize, created titles in exchange for my deeds, and gave me anything my unbeating heart could desire. This tale is not a sad one. I earned everything I wanted. The Sabbat gave me everything I needed. By all rights, I should be as content in the Camarilla as I was in the Sabbat. But now my own clanmates see me as a ripe sacrifice to make. A ticket to join the elite club is the Ivory Tower. I loathe the bastards I served diligently for years, who now betray me and leave me without a cent. I wonder if I'll go down like some disgruntled postal worker, shooting up an ancient castle full of keepers, or how they cut my career short just before I could claim pension. No. No, I think I'll enjoy the hunt. Anyway, you must look at the Lasombra role in the Camarilla. What do they do now that Clan Lasombra didn't before? I could tell you what some of my kin do. Slay the sex enemies, protect the existence of over-old blue bloods and degenerates, take the money of employers to enforce loyalty, and yes, they still give less than two shits about the lives of the kind. The difference is now, with the Inquisition on the scene, they are more circumspect in their nightly activities. What role does Clan Lasombra now play in the Jihad? The same as we ever have. We control via the faith. Whether Camarilla or not, we set the doctrine for the Methuselah cults. We baptize and excommunicate. We are still the only clan once regarded as high to reward its means based on achievement instead of lineage. Or so we claim, anyhow. I'm beginning to see my own words as quite hollow. Tally. The Amici who? According to clan legend, the Magisters listened to a council of vampires selected from the most capable of the clan when it comes to matters of Lasombra politics and agenda. No in-clan assassination, diablerie, or power grab may occur without the council's say-so. If rumors are true, the Amici Noctis consists of millennia-old elders and fresh neonates alike. The only qualification for membership is evidence of adaptation to and overcoming of hostile circumstances. A few Sabbat Lasombra hold positions among the Shadow Council, but so too do a couple of Lasombra who weather the Sabbat's many attempts of murdering them. Therefore, the Amici Noctis is distinctly bipartisan, with clan and interest ahead of sect. Of course, rumors are rumors, and nearly every clan has some fabled council of elders directing the show, and not one of the Amici Noctis has a public name. Some even wonder if these friends of the night are puppets of oblivion, or the antediluvian. Hey. You know, you sometimes get that itch, right? That itch to let it out and go a little monster. You're not alone, mate. We frequently make our love for monstrous behavior well known. Other kindred cringe in fear at us as we hide behind the institutions of Catholicism, while performing worse feats than any other bloodline in the Camarilla. You gotta laugh, haven't you? We use religion to twist the innocent minds. We access innocent bodies, using the cover of our enemies to perform unimaginable grotesque acts. We inspire young vampires to rebel. But you know what? We rarely lead the charge, hanging back and taking the reins once the fight dies down. These nights, many of us seem to be attempting to atone for sins of the past, striving to act with honor and loyalty and restraint. Don't be fooled, mate. The Magisters ain't penitents attempting to find God's mercy, but the vampires attempting to show their peers they can be so much more than feral beasts. They know they gotta wear the mask of humanity to survive the Second Inquisition's eyes everywhere. The Camarilla's waiting guillotine. Little Lamb told me our blood makes us prone to sins of pride and delusion, urging us to delve into deviant behaviors for the sake of experimentation, no matter the risk. I don't know about that, but I do know many of us murder blood and ethics only to find our bodies forever taken over by the beast. Maybe that's the same thing. Anyway, watch out. You've got enemies around you and inside you. Get it? Marco. Little Lamb. Keepers become magisters. Read this well, O flock o' mine. It's a new dawn for the clan of the night, and an exciting time indeed. Let's start with the history of the words La Sombra and kindred. Rarely occupied the same sentence before this century, we La Sombra consider ourselves Cainites of the Sabbat, above human-fearing epitaphs. But yeah, times change. These nights, we aim to stand shoulder to shoulder with our former enemies and rivals, and somehow, some of us are quite comfortable with the idea. I guess it should make you sick, but survival has always been high on the list of our clan's priorities. Yeah, La Sombra were a Sabbat pillar. Maybe we still are in some domains. Had been for 500 years. And that's not a bad stretch. We were feared, reviled, and all those other cool words reserved for the vampires who's a bigger shit than the prince, whoever the fuck. So, what could make us flip? What could make us turn our backs on the Sabbat we loved and believed in, only to join, or at least attempt to join, because it's not an easy task, the Camarilla on the other side? Read on. The reason from above. You're not going to have been blind to the sudden devolution of the Sabbat. It shocks our elders among the Amici Noctis in Spain, Tunisia, Morocco, and Italy, even some La Sombra in Mexico City and Rio de Janeiro balk at our increasing savagery. I bet it made them think, oh shit, they're going to rise up and eat us just like we did our ancestors 500 years back. Well, they weren't wrong. Maybe our fall wasn't so sudden. We'd been charging into hell for the best part of a century when Gehenna came. The Camarilla were hors d'oeuvres. Our battle with them whetting our appetites for the crusade to come. And come it did. We were finally ready. Years of degeneration and sin finally put to good use. Yeah, I know. Clearly, things didn't go that way. Despite claimed desires for permanent revolution, and an end to Methuselah tyranny. When the Emisi Noctis found their power bases threatened by the Sabbat Gehenna crusade, they paused for thought. Now, this is guesswork, but I'm betting they asked, why are we still fighting this war? Have we not already slain our antediluvian? Is there really any way we stop the rising of Methuselahs and endure mortal scrutiny when our sect is becoming so debased? But in secret, those old fucks were whispering, this shit's gone too far. We're waking up monsters we have no hope in defeating. And we're waking up monsters in our children that are going to climb up our pedestals and eat us whole. They look to each other and then to the Camarilla. Perhaps we can offer them something and break bread with the other high clans once more. So yeah, if you're already in the Camarilla, you've heard the Sabbat got too hot for we La Sombra, making us skip sex. There's more to it than that. The view from below. Honestly, the elders were unchanged by time. For all their talk of rolling revolt, they spent centuries cementing their grip over the young and naive, myself included. Occasionally, they deigned to lift an ancilli to recognition, but more often they treated their younger counterparts with disdain as they ever had. My clan's principle encouraged dominance through strength and deed, citing rebellion as one such method of grasping power. These principles are fine in theory, until centuries-old vampires put the boot down on unasked for upward trajectories. I can't count the number of times that elders should have rewarded me with the right to Diablo, the right to embrace, or whatever, just to say, maybe next time. Crusty bastards. Things may have changed for the rank and file as we lay down their lives on battlefields, for elders in dark cathedrals, but the heads of the clan never changed. Never. Can you taste the bitterness, my lovely flock? We, one of the founding clans of the Sabbat, were and still are among the worst offenders of crushing our fledglings, crushing their wills and steering them like pawns. So why we join the Camarilla? Maybe it's because after all this time we bring bound to each other, and some degenerate priest or ductus, we finally had enough of being kicked into battle to fight for some pricks who'd lorded over the clan for half a millennium. Oh, you might think, surely you'd have leapt to the anarch movement, little lamb. They stand up for what the kind of fight back. Don't be dense, my precious flock. We may resent elder mistreatment, but lie down with the dogs, and you might pick up fleas. Gangrel and Bruja, we are not. Joining the Camarilla comes as a calculated move. They need us. They need what we're offering. And when they ask us to make a sacrifice of this, elder, or that to prove our worth, well, we're only too keen to prove our loyalty. the other perspective. Anyway, maybe the barbarism of our sect spurs some La Sombra into abandoning the pretense of fanciful crusade. Sure, I wasn't among the turncoats at first. Strategists such as myself stowed away in planes, filled cargo containers on ships with Sabbat packs, even chartered our own vessels from the Caribbean. When I reached Masal, after a fuckload of horrifying encounters in Algeria and Libya, I got to taste my first ancient vampire. It was glorious. But I needed more strength than my pack possessed. I knew the Amici Noctis were making murmurings of this crusade's fruitlessness. But I wasn't done. I still had a war to fight, and terrible beings rose from beneath the sands and stones. My pack hadn't abandoned the sect yet. You know, I laugh at the memory I'm about to write about. If I didn't, my beautiful flock, you would see bloody tears on my cheeks. Out in Iraq, my ductus, it's what the Sabbat called pack or coterie leader, came to me with intelligence of one of these rumored just awoken elders terrorizing the kind. We thought easy pickings, because you know, when vampires just wake after centuries of torpor, they're not at full tilt. So off we went to Dirt Town, middle of fucking nowhere. As predicted, all the mortals were dead, injured, or hiding. No native vampires in sight to call the place a domain. As we were scouting the place out, we found him. I don't know if he was our clan founder, just a really old keeper, or something completely different, but when he saw us, we felt the pull of his gigantic mouth, his all-consuming black hole. The void was calling. I got out. My pack did not. Sometimes I wonder if he let me go. It doesn't really matter, all told, but because I survived. That's what we La Sombra do. We survive. We go on to triumph. I wasn't the only one to see him out there. Some claim to have encountered him in Libya, others in Afghanistan. There's even a report of his presence in Sicily, and some claim the so-called Emperor of DC is just him in another form. What I do know is enough of us saw him and what he can do to realize our crusade is leading only to a protracted form of suicide. Now I get to tell you this tale, my kin of Clan La Sombra. I get to tell you why the Amici Noctis say we've joined the Camarilla, why the ignorant neonates say we joined the Camarilla, why I say we've joined the Camarilla. We thought we'd killed the greatest monsters of our clan in time immemorable. But they're just waking up. Fighting them isn't going to help. We need to hide. Make the shadows our own. Wait for the Inquisition to purge them for us. With our influence among the organized religions of the world, maybe we can give the Inquisition a push. You know, I was told in the Sabbat that we march to eliminate the Methuselahs and the Antediluvians. We march to liberate ourselves from the jihad. It's all bullshit. My faithful congregation. I was calling us there. He was calling us there. To feed him. The Crusades' strings don't run to some regent or a bunch of cardinals. They run straight into the hungry dark. I can't help but think of all the bloodshed in Africa and the Middle East for this Gehenna crusade. All the Canaanites' lives lost, and how we celebrated the 1 in 20 vampires who returned from conflict with a Methuselah. Bloated like a tick on new power. We just forgot the 19 fallen and where their vitae went, who it fed, who or what the ashes of Methuselah summoned to the surface. The La Sombra migration. Chicago by Night sets forth a great change in Vampire the Masquerade. The entry of Clan La Sombra into the Camarilla, or at least its departure from the Sabbat. The timeline for this migration is deliberately vague, as this movement could have taken place at the inception of the Gehenna Crusade, at its height, or when it reached a devastating depths. Alternately, for your chronicle, the La Sombra may remain Sabbat at heart. Indeed, this entire play toward the Ivory Tower may be a maneuver to diablerize the increasingly elitist sect before the La Sombra return to the Sword of Cain with princes' heads on spears and belts. How the events of Chicago by Night play out is down to you and your players, though future books will explore La Sombra activities beyond the Sabbat, though their aims in Chicago are primarily for admittance into the Camarilla at the city, state, and potentially national level, depending on the amount of influence a new prince like Kevin Jackson can swing. There is nothing stopping them finding alms within the Anarch movement. It would certainly be an easier move for the clan than initiating friendship with the vampires of Clan Ventrue. That has been Chapter 2 of Chicago by Night. Welcome to the night. Thank you for joining me this evening, and I will see you soon for Chapter 3, The City. Good evening.